Tyler had inherited the family farm after his father passed away. Nestled in a remote valley, the farm had been in their family for generations, but Tyler always felt uneasy there. He chalked it up to grief and the loneliness of rural life. But as the days turned into weeks, strange occurrences began to plague him. It started with the livestock. Healthy cows and sheep would be found dead in the morning, their bodies unmarked but their eyes wide open in terror. Tyler spent sleepless nights patrolling the grounds with his shotgun, but he never saw anything unusual. One night, while inspecting the barn, Tyler found a hidden door behind a stack of hay bales. It led to an underground room, filled with old farming tools and dusty records. Among the records, he found his great-grandfather's journal. The entries were filled with cryptic references to the Pact and the Watcher in the woods. Tyler's curiosity turned to dread as he read on. His great-grandfather wrote about a mysterious figure that had appeared one harvest season, promising prosperity in exchange for a ritual performed in the dead of night. According to the journal, the figure demanded a blood sacrifice each generation to maintain the farm's fertility. Shaken, Tyler returned to the house, but the sense of being watched never left him. He decided to visit the nearest town, several miles away, to seek help. The townspeople were wary and tight-lipped. Only an old man, the town's former sheriff, was willing to speak. He confirmed Tyler's fears. Every generation, a member of his family had vanished under mysterious circumstances. Determined to break the cycle, Tyler resolved to confront the entity. He returned to the farm, armed with the knowledge from the journal and the old sheriff's advice. As midnight approached, he made his way to the clearing in the woods where the ritual was supposed to take place. The air grew colder, and an unnatural silence fell over the forest. Tyler stood in the clearing, heart pounding, as the figure from the journal emerged from the shadows. It was tall and cloaked, its face obscured. It spoke in a voice that seemed to come from everywhere at once, demanding the sacrifice. Tyler refused. He raised his shotgun, ready to defend himself. But the figure merely laughed. It vanished as suddenly as it had appeared, leaving Tyler alone in the dark. The next morning, Tyler was found unconscious at the edge of the forest by a neighbor. He had no memory of what happened after the figure disappeared. The farm's livestock returned to normal, and the strange occurrences ceased. But Tyler knew the cycle was not broken, only delayed. He spent the following months researching, determined to find a way to end the curse for good. He traveled far and wide, consulting experts in folklore and the occult. Each clue he uncovered pointed back to the farm and the pact made generations ago. One stormy night, Tyler returned to the underground room beneath the barn. He pored over the journal again, hoping he had missed something. As he read, a single entry caught his eye, a detailed description of a ritual to banish the Watcher forever, but it required a willing sacrifice. Tyler faced a grim decision. He knew that to save future generations, he might have to offer his own life. But the journal hinted at another way, a way to trap the Watcher without a blood sacrifice. Tyler prepared meticulously, setting up wards and protections around the farm. As the anniversary of his great-grandfather's pact approached, Tyler steeled himself for the final confrontation. He hoped his preparations would be enough, but deep down, he knew he might be facing his end. The thought of breaking the curse kept him going. The night arrived, and Tyler stood in the clearing once more, the wards glowing faintly in the darkness. The air was thick with tension as the figure emerged again, its presence more menacing than ever. Tyler began the ritual, chanting the ancient words from the journal. The figure recoiled, its form flickering. Tyler's voice grew stronger, the wards pulsing with energy. Just as the ritual reached its climax, the figure lunged at him. There was a blinding flash of light, and then silence. Tyler awoke at dawn, lying in the clearing. The wards were gone, and the figure was nowhere to be seen. He felt an overwhelming sense of peace. The curse was lifted, and the farm would finally be free. Exhausted but triumphant, Tyler returned to the house, knowing that he had ended the cycle of terror. The farm, and his family could now look forward to a future unshadowed by the past. As Tyler walked back to the house, a sense of relief washed over him. The oppressive weight that had lingered over the farm for generations was gone. The morning sun cast a warm glow over the fields, and for the first time in months, the farm felt alive and vibrant. Days turned into weeks, and life on the farm returned to normal. The livestock thrived, and the crops grew lush and bountiful. Tyler felt a renewed sense of purpose, knowing he had secured a future free from the dark legacy of the past. One evening, as Tyler was finishing his chores, a knock came at the door. It was the old sheriff from the town. He looked at Tyler with a mix of respect and concern. "I heard about what you did," the sheriff said, stepping inside. "It's a brave thing, breaking that curse. But I need to ask, are you sure it's truly over?" Tyler nodded confidently. "I followed the ritual to the letter. The figure is gone. The farm is free." The sheriff sighed, his eyes filled with years of wisdom. "Just be cautious, son. Such darkness doesn't disappear easily. If you ever need help, you know where to find me." Tyler thanked him, but he was certain the ordeal was behind him. He spent the next few months focusing on the farm, making improvements and even planning to expand. The sense of dread had been replaced with hope. One night, as Tyler was sitting on the porch, enjoying the tranquility, he heard a faint whisper on the wind. He brushed it off as his imagination, but then he heard it again, clearer this time. A chill ran down his spine as the words became discernible. "You can't escape the past." Tyler stood up, looking around. The fields were empty, the night silent. But the whisper continued, now coming from all directions. Panic gripped him as he realized the figure might not be entirely gone. The curse might have been deeper and more insidious than he had thought. Desperate, Tyler rushed to the underground room in the barn, hoping to find something he had missed. As he frantically searched through the old journals and relics, he found a small, weathered book hidden beneath the floorboards. It was a diary belonging to his great-grandmother. Her entries revealed another layer to the curse, a binding pact not with one entity, but with a family of shadows that watched over the farm. Breaking the curse required not just a ritual, but a personal sacrifice from each generation. Tyler's heart sank. He had only delayed the inevitable. As he read the final entry, he understood the true cost of his family's prosperity. His great-grandmother had hinted at a final solution, but it required the ultimate sacrifice, his life. Determined to end the suffering once and for all, Tyler prepared himself for the ritual. He knew what he had to do. On the night of the next full moon, he returned to the clearing, carrying the book and a small knife. The air was thick with tension as he began the ritual, chanting the ancient words. The shadows emerged, surrounding him, their whispers filling the air. Tyler felt a strange calm as he made the final incantation, offering himself willingly. There was a blinding flash of light, and then darkness. When the dawn broke, the farm was eerily silent. The townspeople found Tyler's lifeless body in the clearing, a serene expression on his face. The oppressive feeling that had plagued the farm for generations was gone. The sheriff, standing over Tyler's body, removed his hat and said a silent prayer. He knew the sacrifice had been made, and the farm was finally free. Tyler's family held a quiet funeral, mourning their loss but grateful for his bravery. The farm thrived, untouched by the dark past, a testament to Tyler's sacrifice. His story became a legend, a reminder of the cost of prosperity and the strength it took to break the cycle of darkness. And so, the farm continued, freed from shadows, a place of light and life, forever honoring the memory of the man who saved it. Ron had always found solace in the quiet rhythms of his family farm. The gentle sway of the crops in the breeze, the soft clucking of the chickens, and the occasional lowing of the cattle were a comforting backdrop to his days. But lately, the farm felt different. There was an uneasy stillness, a heavy silence that pressed on his senses, making the hairs on the back of his neck stand on end. It began with the disappearance of the animals. One by one, they vanished without a trace. First, it was a few chickens, then a cow. Ron searched everywhere, but there was no sign of struggle, no clues left behind. It was as if they had simply been erased from existence. Then there were the strange noises at night. Ron would lie in bed, straining to hear through the oppressive darkness. There was a rustling, a soft scraping sound that seemed to come from just outside his window. When he mustered the courage to look, there was nothing there but the empty fields, bathed in an eerie moonlight. One evening, as Ron was closing up the barn, he noticed something odd. In the dirt near the entrance, there were footprints. Not the usual prints left by the farm animals, but human footprints, large and deep. They led into the barn, but did not come out. Ron's heart pounded in his chest as he followed them inside, flashlight in hand. The beam cut through the darkness, illuminating nothing but hay and old equipment. The footprints stopped in the middle of the barn, abruptly ending as if their maker had been lifted into the air. The next day, Ron decided to install cameras around the property. He needed to know what was happening. That night, he stayed up late, watching the monitors intently. Hours passed with nothing but the usual nocturnal sounds. Just as he was about to give up and head to bed, a flicker on the screen caught his eye. In the corner of the frame, near the chicken coop, a shadow moved. Ron leaned closer, eyes straining to make out the figure. It was tall and moved with a deliberate, predatory grace. Ron grabbed his shotgun and a flashlight, heart racing, as he headed outside. The night air was cold and still, amplifying every sound. He made his way to the chicken coop, flashlight beam cutting through the darkness. As he approached, he saw the coop door hanging open, swinging gently in the breeze. Inside, the chickens were in a frenzy, feathers flying and loud clucks filling the air, but there was no sign of the intruder. Ron felt a chill run down his spine. Whoever or whatever it was, they were toying with him. He returned to the house, locking every door and window, determined to catch the intruder the next night. The following evening, Ron watched the monitors again, fatigue tugging at his eyelids. Just as before, a shadow appeared, this time near the barn. Ron grabbed his shotgun, nerves on edge, and headed outside. He moved quickly but quietly, determined not to scare off the intruder. As he reached the barn, he saw the figure standing in the doorway, tall and cloaked in darkness. "Who are you?" Ron demanded, his voice shaking slightly. The figure didn't move, didn't respond. Ron raised the shotgun, finger trembling on the trigger. "I said, who are you?" Without warning, the figure lunged at him, a blur of motion and shadow. Ron fired, the sound echoing across the farm. There was a thud as the figure hit the ground. But when Ron shone his flashlight on it, there was nothing there but a pile of clothes. Breathing heavily, Ron bent down to inspect the clothes. They were old and tattered, covered in dirt and blood. As he picked them up, a piece of paper fell out of the pocket. Ron unfolded it with trembling hands, revealing a faded photograph of a man standing in front of the farmhouse, his face eerily similar to Ron's own. On the back of the photograph, a message was scrawled in a shaky hand. "They took me. Don't let them take you." Ron felt a cold dread settle over him. He was no longer alone on the farm, and whatever had taken his animals, and perhaps a man who looked just like him, was still out there, watching and waiting. Ron spent the next day in a haze of fear and confusion. The photograph haunted him. The man's resemblance to him was uncanny. Could it be an ancestor? An unknown relative? The message on the back was a chilling warning. Determined to get to the bottom of the mystery, Ron dug through old family records, searching for any clue that might explain the photograph. Hours turned into days, and finally, he found something. A journal belonging to his great-grandfather, Samuel. The entries were sparse and often mundane, until the final pages. They spoke of strange occurrences on the farm, disappearing animals, eerie noises, and shadows that moved with a life of their own. Samuel's final entry was particularly unsettling. I see him every night now, the shadow that looks like me. It's as if he wants to take my place. If you're reading this, be careful. The farm is cursed. Ron's mind raced. Was history repeating itself? Was the shadow in the photograph the same entity tormenting him now? The more he read, the more he realized that the key to ending this nightmare might lie in understanding what happened to Samuel. That night, Ron set up a perimeter of lights around the farmhouse and stayed awake, shotgun by his side. He was determined to confront whatever was haunting the farm. As the hours dragged on, he felt the familiar tension in the air. The lights flickered, casting dancing shadows across the yard. Suddenly, the lights went out. Ron's heart pounded as he grabbed his flashlight and rushed outside. The barn door creaked open, and Ron steeled himself, moving towards it. Inside, the darkness was almost tangible, a thick, suffocating presence. He heard a whisper, faint and chilling. "Leave now, or it will take you too." Ron spun around, flashlight beam searching for the source of the voice. There in the corner was the shadowy figure, indistinct but unmistakably human in shape. Ron raised his shotgun, but the figure spoke again. "You cannot kill what is already dead." The words sent a shiver down Ron's spine. He steadied his shaking hands. "What do you want?" A shadow moved closer, its form becoming more defined. "I am bound to this place, as you will be. It needs a keeper, a soul to feed upon. It took Samuel, and now it wants you." Desperation clawed at Ron. "How do I stop it?" The figure paused, as if considering. "Break the cycle. Burn the farmhouse. Only then will it be free, and you with it." Ron hesitated. The farmhouse had been in his family for generations. It was more than just a building. It was his home, his heritage. But if the shadow was telling the truth, it was also a prison. Summoning all his courage, Ron made his decision. He gathered what little he could carry, doused the farmhouse in gasoline, and struck a match. The flames roared to life, consuming the old wood and memories alike. As he watched the fire engulf the house, he felt a strange mixture of sorrow and relief. The shadow appeared one last time, its form wavering in the heat of the flames. "Thank you," it whispered, before dissolving into the night. Ron stood there until the fire burned itself out, the first light of dawn breaking over the horizon. The heavy silence lifted, replaced by the normal sounds of the farm waking up. For the first time in weeks, Ron felt a sense of peace. He knew the farm would never be the same, but he also knew that the nightmare was over. The curse had been broken, and whatever dark presence had haunted his family was gone. With a deep breath, Ron turned away from the ashes of the past and faced the future. The farm was still his home, and he was determined to rebuild, free from the shadows that had plagued him. And as the sun rose higher, casting its warm light over the fields, Ron felt a renewed sense of hope.